Navigators, my name is Tiffany Day from Navigating YouTube, and today's video is sponsored by Wondershare Filmora. They have an easy to use drag and drop interface, powerful editing tools, and over 800 effects like title cards, motion tracking, and even animated subscribe buttons. I'll be using Filmora to show you how to remove your green screen background with just one click, along with the Filmora function that's going to allow you to remove your background without a green screen. So there's a ton of different options to choose from. I personally got this one from Amazon, and it's a newer product and I absolutely love it. One, I'm just a huge Neewer fan, and everything I'm filming with right now, including my lights, tripod, and my green screen, is all Neewer. But one thing I really like is I have a smaller room that I film in, and so this is a perfect size because I actually have to set up every time I go to film. So the fact that I'm able to just kind of pull it up and push it down and store it away when I'm done makes my life so much easier. Now, the downside to having a smaller green screen is I actually have to be very careful when I'm filming. It's harder for me to get long shots because if I film where everything is zoomed out and you can see my entire body, but then it's off screen, when I move my hands and my hands aren't on the green screen, when I go to edit everything, it looks kind of weird in my editing process. So those are just some things to keep in mind. But again, this is really good for videos like this where I'm just kind of talking to you and I'm kind of doing a tight shot from like the chest up, or even if I'm doing a live stream and I want to kind of put this behind my chair, because then I'm not really moving my hands like crazy and it doesn't cut it off when I'm editing. Something else besides size when it comes to deciding which green screen you want to get is the color. So there is a chroma green or a chroma blue. So chroma is actually the effect that you use and it just kind of erases your background. So the hex code for a chroma green is 04F404. And so getting a green screen with this hex code color makes it a lot easier when it comes to removing it in your editing software. And then if you're doing a chroma blue, that hex code is 0047BB. So again, the size you get really depends on the room that you have to film in and also what you need, if you need full body shots or if you just need close up. But Neewer actually has a ton of different types of green screens available. Again, I just like this one because of the convenience of just popping it up and down without having to use the clamps, but they do have the clamp ones available too. So I'll go ahead and leave some of my recommendations in the description box below with my affiliate code if you're interested in getting a green screen for your own videos. So the key to lighting your green screen is to make sure things are even. And again, I work in a smaller space, so I actually use the 3-point lighting system for my green screen, and I find this works really good for me. So the way I do this is I use 2 box lights and 1 ring light. So 1 box light is used as what's known as your main light, and this is meant to light the subject, which in this case is myself. So I want to make sure that this light is on either side of my camera, which I actually have it on the left side, and then it's faced at a 45-degree angle towards me. And then I find putting it up as far as possible and tilting it down works better to kind of light me evenly, so there's no like harsh lighting on one side of my face. Now, when you do this, you're gonna notice there's a lot of shadows behind you, and keeping these shadows is gonna make it very hard for you to edit things in your editing software, because if it has multiple colors on the green screen, then the editor doesn't know which color to pull from, and if you try to even things out, you'll notice that you actually start to erase yourself. So to fix this, you wanna use the other box light as what's known as your fill light. So this is going to be placed on the other side of your camera, so I have it on the right. It's actually a little bit further in, and it's faced 45-degree angle to my green screen. So this is not meant to light me at all because that's just gonna cast more shadows. It's meant to fill in the lighting on the green screen where those harsh shadows are at. So you want to make sure you're playing with it a little bit to ensure that the lighting is even on the green screen. Now, once you have your main light and your fill light in, you want to make sure that you are distinguishing yourself even more from the background. If you stand too close to your green screen, you're going to have what's known as spill. And you'll notice in your editor that you'll see like green fuzzies around you, and it gets really hard to kind of distinguish where that's at. And then either you crop yourself too much, or there's just really harsh lines, or you're always gonna have this pixelated green shadow. So to eliminate that, you wanna go ahead and stand further away, kind of closer to your camera. And then you wanna put what's known as a hair light behind you. So that's where my ring light comes into play. So that is going to be complete opposite of my main light. So it's behind me to my right at a 45-degree angle. This way it's casting the light behind my hairline, and it's distinguishing me from my green screen a lot better. Now, something else I would definitely say to do is make sure you're eliminating any other lighting as possible. If you have windows, leaving those open can cast natural light, and it's gonna make it really hard when you go to edit. So you wanna make sure that you close all your blinds, you kind of have your room as dark as possible. All right, so before I show you how to remove your green screen, let's go over some filming tips that are super important. Number one, avoid wearing the exact same color as the screen that you are going to be removing. If you wear green and you're using a green screen, then the green shirt or the green pants or whatever you're wearing is going to be eliminated if it's shown on camera. So something I do to avoid this is I wear neutral colors or the exact opposite color of the screen I am using. I always think that's obvious, but sometimes it's not, so I just wanna make sure you guys are using and wearing the right colors. All right, so this brings me to your camera settings. So having the right camera settings actually makes it a lot easier when you go to edit, and it looks more professional and more natural in your editing software when you're using a different background. Okay, so the first thing you wanna do is minimize your motion blur by raising your shutter speed. Your shutter speed is the length of time that your shutter is open, which allows light to pass through to your camera sensor. So you want this to be high, usually about 1/80th to 1/100th. This way you're minimizing the motion blur and everything just looks a lot cleaner when you're editing. Next, you wanna set your aperture to either f4 or f5.6. I do f5.6, but this will help you increase your depth of field, which ultimately blurs and smooths out your green screen. All right, and last, you wanna make sure that you are filming in high definition or as high definition as your camera will go. So I typically shoot all of my videos like this in 4K at 30 frames per second. If you don't have 4K or you don't like shooting in 4K, don't worry. As long as you're shooting in at least 1080p at either 60 frames per second or 30 frames per second, you should be fine. And when it comes to the frames per second, that's honestly just personal opinion. Some people like 60 frames per second because it looks more clean and more like high definition, kind of more reality TV-ish, and other people like either 24 or 30 frames per second because it gives you more of a natural look to things and it looks more like cinematic to it. So that's just personal preference on you. But again, make sure you're either shooting in 1080p or 4K. I'm pretty sure I said last on that one, but I actually mean last on this one. Ensure your ISO isn't too high. This kind of controls the lighting, and if it's too high, this can cause a lot of grain in your video, which is also known as noise. And when you're editing, this can look very unnatural and make things look weird. And also, if there's too much grain on your green screen, then it gets really hard to depict which color you're working with, and then it looks all fuzzy and blurry, and it may not eliminate the entire background. So just make sure your ISO is low and it doesn't look too washed out or too bright. You want to just have it a nice even tone without any noise to it. Okay, so this is the easy part because Filmora makes it so easy with a one-click editing function. So the first thing you want to do is import all of your media you're going to use into Filmora, and then you want to drag and drop the clip that you want to remove the green screen. So I'm just going to use this one here. Okay, so let's go to this one right here. So this way I can see my hands, I can see my hair, I can see everything. It's gonna make it a lot easier when it comes to the edging and removing stuff. So there's two ways that you can get to the green screen function or the chroma key function. So the first is to double click on the actual clip itself. And then you'll see chroma key here. Go ahead and click on this button and that should automatically get rid of it. If it doesn't for some reason, you can hit this eyedropper here and then you can go ahead and select the green screen there. But again, it should be able to get rid of it for you. Now, when you hit alpha channel, I like this because it's able to differentiate yourself from the background, especially because you're gonna be removing things and it's going to look very black. So I typically like to start at 14 for the offset and 44 for the tolerance. I find this works really good, and then I can kind of just move it from there. So you can see your entire background is black and then you are still in white, which means that you are still there. So if I get rid of the alpha channel, you are still there and you look good. Another thing you can look at is the edge thickness. So if you see, I move the edge, it looks a little bit thicker, and then the edge feather here. So you can see it kind of blurs out my edge. So I actually like to have a little bit of blur for the edge because it looks more natural, especially because I like to choose a background that does have a blurred effect. So it gives it more of that bokeh feel, or that depth of field looks a lot better. And again, if you remove the alpha channel from the thickness and edge, you can still see that you're still there, but you see that there is some edging problems here. So then I can kind of move this down if I feel like this is, obviously it's too thick. So I'll go ahead and move that down, and then you can tell that it's too blurred. so I can remove some of that feathering too. You want it to look as natural as possible. For females with our hair, you want to make sure your hair is smooth out because any flyaways can make things look a little bit unnatural or weird, or it basically gets rid of your flyaways, especially if your hair is highlighted or anything else. Once you're done there, you can go ahead and press OK, and then you can drag and drop the background that you want to use. So make sure that the green screen clip is on top, the background is at the bottom, and drag it all the way to the entire clip. Okay, so this here, you can see that it still needs some cleaning up to do as well. So again, you can either double click and get back to the chroma key, or there's this little button right here. This is also your chroma key function, so it brings up the exact same screen. So from there, I can go ahead and mess with the tolerance a little bit more. I can mess with the offset. You can see it gets rid of like those flyaways I was talking about, but it does leave a harsh edge, so that is where your edge thickness comes into play and where your edge feathering comes into play. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and remove the background and you don't have a green screen, you can go to Effects, and then you want to type in Human Segmentation, and then you'll see this. Go ahead and drag and drop this onto it, and you notice it gets rid of everything. And then what you can do is add in that background you used before, and so now I am all there. So the only problem with this is it looks a little bit more unnatural. It's cropped in a lot, and then you can see as I'm moving, things start to come in and out of frame. So this is one of the reasons why I don't like working with this, but it's really cool for quick effects. Like if I wanted to add words to the background, I did that for one of my clients. So I wanted to add words behind her, so I segmented her away from the background in order to do that, and then I had the words pop up right behind her. So again, you can kind of see it looks weird, but because it's such a small segment, I again didn't want to get rid of her background altogether, but I did want to create more of a 3D effect, so that's where I really use the human segmentation. Other than that, I just kind of use the green screen. Again, all of this can be done using Filmora, and if you're interested, I do have a free trial for you down in the description box below. And also check out this video next for more simple editing tips for beginners. Now get out there, make some content, and let's grow together.